you're looking to move to Austin, Texas, or maybe one of the suburbs of Austin, Texas, or the Texas Hill Country, somewhere in Central Texas, it may be forced on you because you're having to move for a job. You don't quite know where to start. You're just starting that research phase. Guys, this video is the second part of a two-part series that is absolutely crucial for you. I'm Chris Pesek, broker associate at Pesek Properties, and this is what I do. I put out YouTube content about Austin, about the surrounding area, the suburbs and neighborhoods, things to do, things to see, all of that stuff. If you missed the first part of this series, it's FAQs 1 through 10. Basically, I think the link is up over here. You can watch that after this. This is the second part, Again, frequently asked questions about Austin. These things come from clients of mine, from people that move to town that I run across. They come from online, they come from YouTube commenters. So if you've got a question about Austin, make sure you drop it in the comments. More than happy to answer that. But I get questions like this all the time, and I get calls from people like you all the time that are thinking about moving to Austin, or they're needing to move to Austin and they don't quite know where to start. I love fielding those calls. So whether you're moving in 9 days, 90 days, 9 months, doesn't matter. Reach out. I love helping folks like you move to Austin, find the perfect spot to live in Austin, Texas. So all that being said, let's pick this up with FAQ number 11. And don't forget, hang around to the end. If you're around at the end of the first video, I dropped a pretty cool nugget about Austin history, something that's not really well known, and I'm going to do the exact same thing at the very end of this video. All right, let's go take a look at FAQ number 11. All right, number 11 FAQ. Is Austin safe? Okay, I talked a little bit in the last one, about Austin, and there's certain areas that, okay, every city's got them. I probably wouldn't feel comfortable myself going there after dark. I would absolutely hate for my wife to go to certain parts of Austin after dark. For the most part, it's a great place to be. But from the perspective of crime, Austin doesn't rank very well. Now, it's one of those things that, metro areas tend to have more crime. And back when I first moved to Austin in '99, it wasn't bad, right? It had crime, but it was still considered a safe big city. As the city has grown over time, it's gotten more and more crime. And I've got some stats I'm going to read off real quick, but I'm just going to be focused on violent crime. And look, violent crime is a large category, and it's broken up into little categories. So all the, murder, rape, burglary, stuff like that, that's all a part of this category. So I'm just going to deal with violent crime overall, and I'll read this off to you. So in Austin, per 100,000 residents, there are about 4,100, just under 4,100 violent crimes per 100,000 residents. Now, let's do a little math. There's about 2 million, about 2.3 million residents in the Austin MSA, and about 1 million in Austin. Because million's a rounder number, I'm gonna deal with that one first. So violent crimes, if there's 4,000 or 4,100 per 100,000, you've got about 41,000 violent crimes per million people, or in Austin for the city. Chances of being affected by a violent crime in Austin are about 1 in 24. That's not low, okay? That's not great. And I know, Austin has tried to do some things to curb some of that. But look, let's be honest, that's not an ideal figure. Just to put that in reference, Texas as a whole, now Texas has a lot of rural areas, right? So Texas as a whole has about 2,700 violent crimes per 100,000 people. So about 60% of Austin, or no, actually, here I've got the figure right here. Austin is 52.3% higher than Texas as a whole. The USA as a whole has about 2,400 violent crimes per 100,000 people. And so Austin's about 75% higher than the US average. Again, not ideal. I don't think Austin is not a safe place. But again, we do have crime. Crime has gone up in recent years as Austin has blossomed and mushroomed, as the population has mushroomed here. The crime level has gone up. Is that a reason that I personally would not move to Austin? No, because honestly, we see it. There's murders and stuff. but I don't know that anybody's necessarily concerned about serial killers, and you'll get that reference if you watch the end of part 1. If you didn't, go back and check that out. I don't think that's a real concern for people. So the crime rate is higher than what we want it to be, but I don't know that that's a reason that is deterring people from actually moving here. And again, I've lived here for a long time. My wife's lived here for her whole life. Not anything that's affected us. All it takes is one time. It'd change somebody's attitude on it, I'm sure. But again, Austin is overall a pretty safe place. Our crime stats don't really bear that out. They're a little bit higher. So anyway, we do need to do better on that. All right, FAQ number 12. How big is Austin? From a landmass standpoint, it's about 322 square miles in the Austin MSA. Now, I need to make sure you understand the difference. The city of Austin is different. The city of Austin is smaller, in the middle-ish. The Austin MSA is a metropolitan statistical area, which incorporates a large amount of suburbs around Austin. So basically from Georgetown on the north down to San Marcos on the south, Bee Cave, Lakeway, Dripping Springs on the east, and then out to kind of Dripping Springs, Bee Cave, Lakeway on the west, out to Bastrop on the east. So that's the metro area, the MSA. Now, 322 square miles roughly in the Austin MSA. That's a large area. It's the fourth largest by landmass metro area in the United States, in Texas. We're behind the DFW area, which is massive, behind Houston and behind San Antonio in size of the metro area. Now, from residents, the Austin city limits, Austin City, has about 1 million residents right now. The Austin MSA's got about 2.35 million. Again, putting it number 4 in terms of the size of metros in Texas. DFW is number 1 with about 7.5 million people in the MSA. Houston's number 2 with about 7.1 million in the MSA, and San Antonio's number 3 with about 2.5. Austin had been gaining on San Antonio pretty quickly, but San Antonio over about the last 2 years has started to take off, and they're starting to grow a lot now. So I don't know. Austin at some point is probably going to catch and surpass San Antonio, but it's not going to be as soon as we thought, because people have figured out also that San Antonio is a pretty good place to live and the cost of living is a little bit cheaper down there. And if San Antonio is a place that you're considering, let me know. I've got great referral partners down there, agents that I know very, very well that I've referred clients to, and they can definitely help you out. But you know, as much as I love San Antonio, I still think Austin's a better place to be. All right, before I get to number 13, and you may have just started with this part 2 of this series. Remember, there is a part 1 with 1 through 10 of these FAQs, but if this is the kind of content that you're looking for, if you're enjoying this content and you're getting value out of it, hit the subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you know when I'm bringing new content out, and you're going to be the first one to be notified of that by YouTube. So again, if this is bringing value to you, if this is making your life better, do me a favor and subscribe so you know when the rest of my content's going out. But number 13 is, what are the best suburbs around Austin? Now, again, I did a whole video series on this. I picked, the top 6 suburbs as far as I'm concerned, and it's also the 6 suburbs that are growing the fastest. So we've got Dripping Springs, we've got Wimberley. Those are on the southwest side of Austin. You've got Kyle Buda, which are technically 2 different towns, but they're the same school district, so we call them Kyle Buda. And again, Buda is Buda, not Buddha, even though it looks like Buddha. On the southeast side, you have Bastrop. Bastrop's growing very quickly because of Tesla and the Boring Company and SpaceX going in, and also very close to the airport. On the northeast side, you've got Taylor, which is growing very quickly now because of Samsung. That's where Samsung's going in. And then on the north side of Austin, Georgetown is another great subdivision. Now, those are the ones I did the video on, but there are other amazing subdivisions out there. Liberty Hill, Lago Vista, Lakeway, Bee Cave. Westlake is technically a subdivision because, like I mentioned in the last video, it's like its own little city in there. I don't consider it a suburb, but it's technically a suburb. Leander's a really good suburb. Cedar Park, Round Rock, Hutto. All of those are great suburbs of Austin, and I might be missing 1 or 2, but seriously, any of the ones that I just mentioned, you can't go wrong with any of them. So those are my favorite suburbs of Austin. Number 14 FAQ, what are the major industries in Austin? And again, there's a bunch, and I had to make notes earlier, so I've got my note sheet here. But I'll talk a little bit first about kind of what Austin used to be and what's changed. So Austin, really starting in the mid-90s, started to become a tech hub, and that's kind of what it's known for. I mean, Applied Materials, AMD, Motorola, Dell Computers, all of those, well, not Motorola didn't get its start here, but the other ones got their start here, and it was really a tech hub from the 90s, 2000s, and that was the major industry in Austin. When the tech bubble burst, kind of the dot-com bubble and all that stuff in 98, 99, Austin was affected a little bit. The housing market didn't slump, kind of flattened. But what the city council realized at that point is, if you want a city that's really going to grow up, you need to focus on multiple industries. You can't just be known for one thing, because if you see a downturn in that industry, it's going to affect the whole town. And Austin did see a little bit of an effect back then. I mentioned the prices didn't necessarily go down, but I've got a friend that had a house, up in, I want to say it was Pflugerville maybe. And it was one of those that they had to leave after about 2 years. They had to go to a different area, and they needed to sell their house. They bought it brand new, and they couldn't get what they paid for it 2 years later, which I guess technically means that the prices dropped there overall in the Austin area. They were flat, and that was caused by that dot-com bubble, or the tech bubble. So Austin City Council, Chamber of Commerce, Mayor's Office, and all that, they over the years have brought in a lot more industries, and Austin is known for more than tech now. And the idea is that if you see a downturn again in any part of the economy, you want a local economy that's still going to thrive, as long as you don't see something catastrophic, a shutdown of the entire economy or whatever. So major employers have been coming in. A lot of them still have a little bit of a tech lean, but there are a lot of other industries here right now, including, we've got a pretty big military presence. We've got Camp Mabry, but the military also opened up its first, I guess you could call it a high-rise military base in downtown Austin. It's not the whole building, but the Army has the Army Futures Command in downtown Austin, which is kind of Army's tech central. And then in College Station, they run their automated vehicles, their robot vehicles, and all that testing out there. So even insofar as to bring in the military into Austin beyond normally what was Camp Mabry and what used to be the Bergstrom Air Force Base, which is now Bergstrom International Airport. So it's been growing. So I'm going to go to my notes and kind of go through a few of these things here. So we've talked about technology and innovation and it being a tech hub. There's a lot of startups that are popping up here. I mean, it can't go through all of them. I don't know them off the top of my head, but there are a lot of startups. Creative and media industries. With South by Southwest, I mentioned that music festival, and it's become an art and a tech festival as well, and it's huge. And as a result of that, you've got gaming industry here. I don't know if you know this, and you probably do if you're younger than me, but there's a whole revolution going on with gaming and online gaming, and I don't know anything about it, but they're opening basically old malls where you can go in and it's giant gaming consoles everywhere, and a lot of those companies are operating here out of Austin. So creative and media industries, advertising and marketing, there's amazing advertising and marketing going on in Austin. Healthcare and biotechnology, I talked a little bit ago about all the teaching hospitals and the nursing schools, university nursing schools. A&M's got the nursing school here, Dell Children's Medical Center, but also I mentioned on the last video that Texas is starting to throw a lot of money at bringing biotech and healthcare to Texas, specifically as a result of the coronavirus, because if that happens again, they want to be able to take care of things locally by having that type of industry locally. And Austin's doing the same thing. I can tell you right now, one of the focuses for the next 5 years for the Chamber of Commerce of Austin is to identify biotech and healthcare companies to bring into Austin. So that's a huge growing field right now. Education and research, again, I mentioned a little bit on the previous video. You've got UT, you've got Houston-Tillotson, you've got St. Ed's. Down south, I didn't mention this on the other one, San Marcos, you've got Texas State University, Concordia University, Austin, and I didn't mention this either, Austin Community College is massive. It's a huge community college. Does a lot of good work here in Austin. And then you've got A&M Health Science Center up north. You got Southwestern up north. Texas Tech has a nursing school up north. So, from an industry standpoint, there's a lot of higher education here. Green and sustainable energies, renewable energy, that's something that's really taking off, obviously, because Austin's a little bit of, I'll say it's always been a little bit of a hippie town. Sustainable things is a real thing here. And personally, I'm a little bit of a hippie too. My whole house is on rainwater. I don't even have a secondary water source. But that type of industry is also taking off here now. What was the I lost my notes here. Oh, it's waste management. There are, I want to say at this point, there's 4 different major waste management companies that are national, that are headquarters here in Austin. So from an industry standpoint, we used to be a little bit pigeonholed, but now we've got, what you would call diversification of industry, that it would take a major economic meltdown, probably not only in the United States, but also in the world, because we've got global companies here at this point. It would take a major economic meltdown to really affect the Austin economy, and to me, that's a great thing. You need, if you're going to live here, you're going to need an economy that's going pretty much regardless of what happens, again, outside of something catastrophic. So that's the type of industries that we've got in Austin. All right, FAQ number 15, and this one is driven because there's a lot of different places in Texas to live. Look, people are moving to Texas for different reasons. Right now, a lot of it has to do with jobs. Okay, and there's tech jobs everywhere. There's medical jobs everywhere. So everything that I just talked about in 14, you can find that in other major metro areas in Texas. That's one of the reasons Texas is growing so fast. People are moving here, but this frequently asked question is, what is the difference between Dallas or Dallas-Fort Worth, San Antonio, Houston, and Austin? So this one I'm going to have a little bit of fun with. I've lived in Austin. I've never lived in Houston, spent a ton of time there growing up. Dallas-Fort Worth, I'm going to be honest with you, I've never wanted to spend a whole heck of a lot of time there. I mean, I've gone up for Cowboys games and Six Flags and stuff like that. Done some real estate conferences and stuff up there. Never really had a lot of desire to be in Dallas-Fort Worth for very long. Again, small town guy, okay. And San Antonio, spent a ton of time in San Antonio. That's one of my wife's and I's favorite places to get away for a quick weekend together. So what are the differences? Okay, Austin's probably the most liberal of those towns. Texas is a red state. It's a conservative state overall. Austin is a bright blue spot in the middle of Texas. As you get around to the suburbs of Austin, it gets a little bit more purple. And if you follow politics, you understand exactly what I'm saying. But Austin in and of itself is a very liberal place. And most metro areas are pretty liberal. Houston, the core center of Houston is very liberal. As you get out, it's more purple. San Antonio is actually a pretty conservative community, as is Dallas-Fort Worth for the most part. And again, there's pockets that are very bright blue in those areas, but for the most part, DFW and San Antonio are fairly conservative. Austin's super liberal, and the core downtown area, or the core part of Houston, is also pretty liberal. So there's one major difference. Traffic in Austin, I've driven in all places at different times, middle of the night, middle of traffic, off-peak hour, whatever. I've driven everywhere. Austin's traffic is not as bad as the other three other three cities. I say communities. Austin's traffic is not as bad. You will not be stuck in traffic near as badly as any of the other three. Getting around, and I'm going to put this kind of with traffic, but different, guys. San Antonio, is an old mission town. If you know anything about the history of Texas, by the way, Austin was not the original capital of Texas. It was moved here. It was actually Washington on the Brazos, which is about an hour and a half or 2 hours east on the way to Houston. But anyway, San Antonio is an old town. You got the Alamo. There's I think there's 7 missions that are around. And by the way, if you love history, God, you've got to go visit the missions and do the mission walk and stuff like that in San Antonio. It's incredible. But San Antonio, being an old mission town, and there, cattle drives, both the Spanish and American settlers, really big on cattle. And I swear to you, and this is the case everywhere, but I think other places have made corrections. But I swear to you, the roads in San Antonio are old cattle trails because they just wind all over the place. It is absolutely insane, the roads in San Antonio, especially as you get closer to downtown. So Austin roads are not bad. And most of them are traveling kind of in grids. You got a couple of major roads going north-south, a couple of major roads going east-west. The only thing we don't have is a loop. San Antonio's got 2 major loops. Houston, I don't know, maybe 3 loops at this point. I mean, it's at least 2. But anyway, and Dallas has just got loops going everywhere. Holy hell, I don't even know where all those loops go, because you got Dallas and Fort Worth, and then you got Arlington in the middle, and then you got all the stuff north and Plano and Prosper. And I swear the loops in Dallas look almost like a Venn diagram, like a 15 group Venn diagram or something. It's insane. So getting around, I think, in Austin is a lot easier. Now, the town is a lot smaller still, but just because of the layout of the roads, I think Austin's a lot easier to get around in. The difference between those in food. I mentioned already on the first video in this, Austin's a great foodie city. I mentioned some of my favorite, like sushi for Uchi and Perlis for seafood and quality seafood for seafood. People argue about what town in Texas is the biggest food culture town. And I feel a lot the same way about Austin food culture as I do about Austin being the live music capital of the world. You can say that Austin's got the best food culture in Texas, but me personally, I think you're being dishonest when you say that. San Antonio has got absolutely amazing food. You expect San Antonio, because it's further to South Texas, you expect San Antonio to have better Tex-Mex, and it does. And San Antonio's got better authentic Mexican and interior Mexican food than what Austin's got. I mean, hands down, it's not even close. But what people don't realize is San Antonio's also got a really nice fine dining scene, especially around the Pearl District, just north of downtown. Now, Austin's probably got it in terms of the number of fine dining restaurants, but the quality in San Antonio, I will put up against anything in Austin. And I, take Gordon Ramsay to tell me I'm wrong, and I'd still call him a liar. The other one that people don't realize is Houston. Guys, Houston's got an absolutely phenomenal scene, and I personally think Houston's food scene is the best in the state. What it has in spades over any of the other areas is different types of, and I'm going to group them all together, and I know that's wrong, but different types of Asian cuisine, specifically Vietnamese food. Holy cow. If you are a fan of any type of Asian cuisine, but specifically Vietnamese food, you have got to go to Houston. And I think Houston's barbecue scene is on point, or on par with Austin as well. Now, Dallas is a little bit different. I'm going to be honest with you. I have not eaten out as much in Dallas. What I have eaten has been phenomenal. Steaks, and I say Dallas, I'm saying DFW as a whole, that entire area, which is massive. Steaks, guys, Tim Love is an amazing chef. He's got a burger place in the Fort Worth Stockyards, and he's got Lonesome Dove, which is a steak place in the Fort Worth Stockyards. And he started to move that around a little bit. There's a Lonesome Dove here in Austin. I haven't been to it because I'm a little bit scared to ruin the first experience I had in Fort Worth. Holy hell, that's the best steak I've ever had in my life. And he also does different types of wild game. You can get wild boar, rabbit, rattlesnake, stuff like that. So if you're looking for a cool experience, Lonesome Dove, either in the Fort Worth Stockyards or here in Austin, is off the charts. And then Dallas also, to me, has a better barbecue scene than Austin. The barbecue scene is great in Dallas. So from a food perspective, Austin is solid. but there's other areas that have better food, better specific food. That's a better way to say it. And I personally think Houston's got the best food scene in Texas. What else about the difference between the communities? You know, in terms of travel, Houston's got a giant international airport. Dallas has a giant international airport. San Antonio's airport's a little bit smaller. You're not going to have as many direct flights out of San Antonio as you do Austin. So that's a little bit different. Houston and Dallas, they're such big areas that their airports are so massive. They're going to have that over Austin. But the thing that Austin has that none of the other ones have, to me, is the location. From a weather perspective, Dallas-Fort Worth, their weather is crazy. It's right on the southern edge of Tornado Alley that runs up through Kansas and Oklahoma and all of that. So they get stupid, crazy, scary storms up there. I'm not a giant. I don't mind a thunderstorm. A good Texas thunderstorm's awesome. I love sitting on the back porch and watching them roll in. But I get freaked out with really bad weather, and they get really bad weather up there. So Austin does not have that. Houston is humid. I mean, it can be 95 degrees and, you're just dripping sweat. And I know that sounds bad, right? Because 95 sounds hot, but it's really not all that hot. But in Houston, you walk outside, it's like you walk into a dang sauna. So it's hot and it's humid because it's right on the Texas coast, right? It's just up from Galveston, and there's, Galveston, or the Port of Houston comes up. So there's a lot of water around it. It's southeast Texas, really humid. That's one of the reasons I don't like Houston, is because of the humidity. San Antonio has a humidity also, but from a weather perspective, San Antonio is pretty decent, okay? It is a little bit more humid because it's closer to the coast, so that's the other reason I'll give Austin the location and weather edge. Austin is kind of, if you've heard me in other videos talk about this, the I-35 that runs through Austin is an ancient fault line. And so there's a huge upheaval on the west side of Austin. That's what made the hill country. So we're far enough away from the coast, and the weather pattern changes just enough at I-35 and then up through the Edwards Plateau, which is on the other side of the hill country going out towards West Texas. The weather changes enough that our humidity is usually not too bad. And okay, if you're from Colorado, our humidity is bad, but in Austin, 60% humidity, it's not bad when you're going to Houston and getting 90 and 95% humidity, 60%. And then as you get into the hill country, again, west of Austin, call it Lakeway, Dripping Springs, Blanco, Johnson City, Fredericksburg, out there's a lot of times in the summer, we may have 45% humidity, 40% humidity. It's really not bad. So it's hot, but it's more of a desert climate. Again, we're right on the edge of a giant desert moving out to the west. So it's a little bit more of that desert climate. It's not too bad. So from a weather perspective, I give Austin the edge. From getting around Texas perspective, I give Austin the edge. Again, I mentioned it in the other video, hour and a half to San Antonio, 3 hours to Houston, 3 hours to Dallas. You've got day trips all day long. Everything in the hill country, Fredericksburg, Johnson City, Blanco, Lukenbach, Kerrville, Comfort, all of that stuff is within a day, or not a day's drive, a couple of hours drive. So you've got day trips for the rest of your life, and you're going to find something that you want to do. So from a location standpoint, I think Austin has got all of the other ones beat. If you've got thoughts on this and you want to say I'm wrong about any of that, let me know in the comments below. That's fine. You can change my mind. And also, if you want to know anything specific about day trips, again, if you're thinking about coming here, to just check the area out, drive around, see what you like, and you want to know some day trips, either PM me, DM me, not PM, DM, or my contact information is below. Call me, shoot me a text, or drop me something in the comments and say, hey, I'm going to be there. What can I spend 4 hours doing? I'm staying in Georgetown, and I got you covered. So there you go. That's that FAQ. Let's move on. All right, you're still with me. FAQ number 16. What's it like living in Austin? Like I mentioned on the first video, I've been here since '99. My wife grew up in Austin. And when I moved to Austin in '99, I was coming out of Texas A&M, and I was a school teacher at the time. And I moved to Northwest Austin, actually North Austin. I lived up off of Palmer Lane between I-35 and Mopac. And Austin was still this cool little crazy kind of a weird town, and that's kind of a little bit before that. They started with the moniker of Keep Austin Weird, and the whole idea around Keep Austin Weird is the residents didn't want it to be this corporate thing. And I was told that Keep Austin Weird started as like somebody got it off the radio, somebody on the radio said it, one of the local radio stations, and they were really trying to keep all of the old parts of Austin a thing, like Threadgill's downtown, which is or on the south side of the lake, which is no longer there, and Zilker Park and Town Lake and all the things that aren't here anymore. Wanted to keep Austin weird, and at that time it was from where I was, you could get downtown in 10 minutes, and it was all easy and small little community. But at the same time, there were parts of Austin. I mentioned the crime now. But there are probably more parts of Austin now that I'm comfortable in than there were back then. Or a better way to say it, back then, there were larger parts of Austin that I just would not go after dark. They weren't very safe. And honestly, a lot of those areas have changed and gentrification has taken place, and I'm comfortable in those places now. So that's something that's changed for the better. Living in Austin now, okay, you're gonna have some traffic. You have to own a car here. I guess you don't have to. If you live downtown, you can walk to work, or if you live along the commuter rail up into Leander and Cedar Park, you can take the train to downtown Austin. But honestly, the vast majority of jobs for people really aren't downtown. They're kind of spread out around. Tech Ridge is up on the north side. There's a tech corridor on the southwest side. But the larger companies are moving kind of to the periphery of Austin. So you're going to need a car. Public transportation is not great. Even getting around downtown to go out at night. Compared to places like Portland. When my wife and I visit Portland, you can jump on a train, you can go see a bunch of different breweries and get around downtown and walk around. And that's not really the thing here. Now, they're trying to change that a little bit. They're trying to add more public transportation. I personally don't think they're doing it correctly, but at least they're trying, right? It's like Ralphie Wiggum. I tried, okay. So, transportation is an issue. But again, I can drive from my home between Austin and Dripping Springs on the southwest side. I can get downtown most days in 30 to 35 minutes as long as I'm not in peak traffic. I can drive to the complete other side of Austin. I can get to Cedar Park in 45 to 50 minutes, and I can get all the way out to Taylor, which is where the new Samsung plant is going to be on the northeast side of Austin. I can get all the way out there in an hour and 10 minutes. If I was an agent in Houston or Dallas-Fort Worth, there's no way I would be able to show houses and competently show houses on the other side of town, because the market would be so completely different. It wouldn't make sense. But here I can, because Austin's still a small enough town, may not be for long, but it's still a small enough town that I know the areas, I know the houses, I know, what's going on all around. So it's still a small enough town from that perspective. Weather in Austin, again, mentioned this in the first video, but the weather's awesome for 9 to 10 months out of the year, depending on the year. The only times that you're really going to be miserable is when we get an ice storm that comes through, which might be once a year. And that's not even a bad ice storm. It usually lasts for 24 hours and it's gone, or maybe 48 hours. We've had a couple of really bad ones lately, but that's not the norm. And then in the summer, it gets really, really hot at times. But again, stay in the air conditioning. You're moving to Austin, you're outside because you've got the shoulder seasons, right? You got spring, you got fall. Even though it's not really a fall, we're in it now. It cools off before it gets into winter. And then for the most part, winter is mild. So the seasons, the weather is really nice. And that's why people love to move here. You are going to have, it's not all great. Okay. Our mosquitoes are terrible. Right now it's October 2023. We hadn't had mosquitoes all summer because it was hot and dry. It rains, and now we got mosquitoes everywhere. Mosquitoes suck. You've got all kinds of biting bugs, scorpions, tarantulas. You got snakes that can kill you, rattlesnakes and stuff like that. But in Austin, you don't have to worry about that really all that much. Some parts of Austin you do. If you want to know where, tell me or ask me. I'll tell you where. But anyway, it's Texas. Look, everything either bites you or stings you or pokes you, and that goes for plants and animals alike. people too, really. But anyway, so it's not all roses here. You are going to have to deal with some weather extremes, bad thunderstorms from time to time. So that's not a bad thing. I'm taking a look at my notes just to make sure that I'm checking off everything. Yeah, public transportation, vehicles, weather, and I'll wrap up this FAQ with this thought. Again, my wife and I travel a lot. We love to get outside and hike and just visit different places, right? And most of it's domestically. I've only been outside the country a few times, and most of those were Mexico, only once overseas. So that's kind of the disclaimer. Texas people are nice. There's some, everywhere has its people, right? It's real jerks. And for the most part, those people in Texas are just the ones that, they don't, the saying around here is, don't California my Texas. And I'm sorry to California people. It's not that we don't like you. And I've got a bunch of great friends from California, great clients that have come here from California, and they're amazing, and I really, really do like them. But it's the fear, right? Because Texas again is a little bit of a red state, and not a little bit of a red state, it's a very red state. And California is a very, very blue state. So it's the fear of the people that are coming here, and I don't want Texas to become as liberal as California and all of that stuff. Well, I don't know that I can blame people from Texas. Just like if I moved to California, people would be like, don't Texas my California. And so where I'm going with that is people in Texas really are nice when you come here. And I don't care if you're a guy or a girl. Expect people to hold the door open for you when you're going into a store. That's common courtesy. Expect people to tell you, yes ma'am, no ma'am, yes sir, no sir. It's kind of how we were raised. We're gonna let you cut in line. We're gonna talk to you in line. We're gonna ask you how your day is. And it's not, we're not weird. We're not scoping you out to mug you or anything like that. People in Texas just are nice. So, and Austin's no different. Even though Austin is a little bit different from the rest of Texas from a political standpoint, people in Austin are super nice. When people move here from out of state, it doesn't take them long to understand that's a real way of life here, and their ways kind of change to become like that. And specifically, I've got friends that moved here from the Northeast, and they said when they lived in Manhattan, they were rude people, just like they were around in Manhattan, and said it took them 6 months to a year when they got here. And, they caught themselves telling people thank you all the time and telling, yes, sir, I would love that, and holding doors for people. So it's a state of mind, and it rubs off on people. So expect that when you come here, because that really is what it's like living in Austin. Expect to get to know your neighbors, and if you don't have any friends here and you want to make friends, it's not hard to do. Get out and talk to your neighbors. Go find a church, find a meetup group. Meetup groups are huge in Austin right now, and they're happening all the time. So, Texas is not a hard place to make friends and be friendly. So there you go. That's what it's like living in Austin. Now, before I get to 17, I want to remind you, stick around to the end. At the end of the first part of this video, or part one of this video series, I had a little bit of nugget that's just kind of, again, Austin's weird and you gotta love it. So I've got another one of those nuggets for you at the end of this video. You're gonna love it. But number 17 is, what about the schools in Austin? A lot of people that move here are having kids. They're concerned, they want to get their kids into good schools. So realistically, it's like a lot of other areas, whether it's Texas metro areas, whether it's Texas, out of Texas, whatever. The schools are good. The large school districts are the ones who have, the most troubles, and the largest school district here is Austin ISD. I can say that confidently. I spent 12 years teaching in Austin ISD and coaching in Austin ISD. My wife spent 23 years coaching and teaching in Austin ISD, and she's a product of Austin ISD. Now, we were blessed enough to be at a great school for both of the schools that we were both at. and that makes all the difference in the world. So just like anywhere else, you've got great public schools that you really want your kids in, and I mentioned a few of those. In Austin ISD, Bowie's a really good school, James Bowie High School, and then LC Anderson High School is another good school that's up in Northwest Hills. Outside of Austin ISD, you've got Eanes ISD. It's a great school district. Lake Travis ISD, a great one. Dripping Springs, if you want a smaller school district, Wimberley or Lago Vista are smaller school districts. Your kids don't get lost in the shuffle there. Those are great school districts. Georgetown, Liberty Hill, Burnett. Again, all really great public school setups there. If public school is not your thing, or maybe you live in an area that's zoned to a public school that you really don't want your kids in, we've got a lot of great private schools as well. Again, I mentioned Regents, St. Michael's, St. Thomas. Now I'm not remembering the other one that I mentioned earlier. But anyway, private schools are a thing here, and there's a lot of good private schools. There are charter schools as well. And then if all of that fails, I have clients, and I know a lot of people who just homeschool their kids. Maybe they don't want their kids to go to an Austin school, or they live out in the country somewhere and they don't really want to commute. So you know what? They just homeschool and socialize their kids through kid activities and daycare and baseball. Little league baseball and stuff like that is how they get their socialization. So from a school perspective, there's something for everybody. There are great public schools, there are great private schools, and there are home schools as well. So from a school perspective, Austin's got you covered pretty much regardless of where you move in the area. All right, rolling on to number 18, Austin FAQ. What's Austin known for? You've probably heard some things. First of all, Austin's known for being weird. I mean, we had Leslie. Wow, what can you say about Leslie? Leslie has passed away right now. Leslie was, I don't know how to explain him. I guess the first cross-dressing guy that I ever met. Leslie used to hang out down on 6th Street, and you would often just see him in his giant beard and shaggy hair and a thong, and that was it. And he just, it's kind of like the naked cowboy with his guitar. Leslie just had a thong on and rode his bike around and hung out on 6th Street. That keep Austin weird, right? Willie Nelson talked about it all the time. There's old school places that are weird Austin, but for the most part, unfortunately that's going away a little bit. Austin's getting a little bit more mainstream like other metro areas, but that is first thing that Austin's known for is keeping Austin weird, being weird. Austin's known for its music scene. Again, Austin will scream it from the top of the rooftops that it's the live music capital of the world. I will not go into any more detail about how I feel about that. You can find it on my other videos, but we're known for music. South by Southwest Music Festival, which is now also a tech festival, ACL Live, Austin City Limits Festival is another giant music festival. There's venues all around town. There's artists that are, every genre of music you could possibly want, you can find it in Austin. So Austin is also known as a music town. I've mentioned already, Austin is known as a foodie town. I've gone through the restaurants and stuff like that, and while I think that there's other places in Texas that have things over Austin, Austin is a great food town, so it is definitely known as a food town. Let me jump in on a couple of other things. Austin's known as an outdoor place. Anytime you see kind of advertisements for Austin, they're showing people on paddle boards and kayaks on Town Lake or Lady Bird Lake, as it's known. They're showing people running outdoors on the hike and bike trail that goes around the lake in downtown Austin. Showing people on hiking trails out in the hill country. Austin is known as one of the healthiest places to live in the United States in terms of BMI of the residents. So it's a very health conscious place. People love being outdoors here and doing outdoors things. So that's another thing Austin's known for. It's known as an innovation and tech hub. Austin's got Silicon Hills, and I'm going to read these off because I keep forgetting some of these. Home to major tech companies: Dell, IBM, AMD, Capital Factory, National Instruments, Motorola, Samsung. SpaceX, all of that stuff. Austin is a very, very innovative city. There's a lot of startups that get their starts here, and also just tech firms in general. So Austin is also known very much as a tech city. And then the last thing is the film and art scene. The film scene here has blown up over the last probably 5 to 10 years. I mean, you know, Matthew McConaughey has shot some stuff here. There's a lot of TV shows and Netflix things that are being shot in Austin and in the surrounding area. They're putting in a movie studio. I want to say it's in Bastrop. It might be in Smithville. I heard talk of a large movie studio going in somewhere between Dripping Springs and Wimberley potentially. So the film and art scene in Austin is definitely alive and kicking. And you know, again, I mentioned South by Southwest Festival becoming that art and tech festival as well, and that's a large part of what's drawing and driving it, is because film companies are realizing, you know, Castor Studios is out here in Dripping Springs. They left California, moved their studio out here to Dripping Springs, and again, corporations are doing that because Texas in general is friendly to corporations, but they're also finding out that not only is Texas friendly, but their employees don't mind moving to Austin, because again, Austin's a lot, you know, there's a lot to like, all these things that I'm telling you it's known for. So, you know, the movie festivals and all that other stuff, that's one of the reasons it's getting a name in the film industry. So those are just a few of the things that Austin is known for, and that's going to continue to expand as Austin grows. And I mentioned Chamber of Commerce is constantly trying to bring in new businesses and new industries. So we're probably going to see Austin continue to mature and change and morph into something that's completely different 15 to 20 years from now than what it is right now. And I'm going to call this FAQ number 19, but this is that extra little golden nugget that I was telling you about. And not a golden nugget, it's just a cool little fact about Austin. But before I get into that, remember guys, if this is the kind of content you're looking for, if I'm the kind, look, you can tell at this point whether or not you would like to work with me if you're moving to Austin. If I'm your type of agent, if you think you would get along with me because of this video, I can tell you I'm the exact same person in person that I am in these videos. So reach out to me. Again, it doesn't matter if you're moving here in 9 days or 9 months, just reach out. It's always better to start that a little bit early, and you can call me or text me or email me. All of that information is down below this video. But the last part of this is FAQ 19, little tidbit about Austin that most people don't know. I always forget the guy's name. His last name is Martinez. I want to say it's Mariano Martinez. This is the guy that invented the frozen margarita machine. Now, he's from Dallas, but I think it was in the early 1970s. It might have been 71 or 72. Mariano Martinez was in Austin, and he was in a 7-Eleven. I don't know if they didn't have 7-Elevens in Dallas where he was, or maybe he had never seen one, but he was in a 7-Eleven, and he was watching the slushy machine. And as he was watching the slushy machine, he got to thinking, and he went back home to Dallas, and he converted the slushy machine into a frozen margarita machine. So if you love frozen margaritas, the idea for frozen margaritas was born in Austin, Texas in the early 1970s. And I hate the fact that I love Matthew McConaughey so much, but as Matthew McConaughey would say, and that is, all right. Guys, you made it to the end. Again, if you need any help in Austin, Texas whatsoever, reach out to me, Chris Pesek, broker associate at Pesek Properties. I'm here to help you.